Hello and welcome to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast that in times of global turmoil simply says c'est la vie. I'm your host Alex Freewood, and joining me is my co-host Pewsham Spice. Pewsham, on a scale of 1 to 10, how zigga are you feeling today?
Well, Bristol Spice, I have to say I'm 10 zigzagars out of 10. We've got an excellent episode lined up. We've got an excellent guest lined up, and I really can't wait to get into this topic. It's been on the shelf for far too long. We're finally getting into it tonight. Really looking forward to this.
Absolutely, yeah, it has been a long time coming. And to explain to listeners what we're talking about, we are going to be talking about the girl bands of the 90s and the girl power movement with our special guest, Catherine Donnelly, who will be with us in a short while. So, really looking forward to that. But before then, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gateway 2000. If you're looking to refresh your home PC for the new year, then look no further than Gateway 2000. Head down to your local electronics and home computing retailer and quote the code ALLRIGHT90s to get 10% off any Gateway 2000 product, including their brand new handbook and sub notebook. Any new computer purchase will also come with a complimentary copy of Monkey Island 2: LeChuck's Revenge on CD-ROM. So thanks again to this episode's sponsors, Gateway 2000.
Excellent sponsor. Really glad to have Gateway on board. I remember my friend Ben Lynch in year 5 or year 6, this is before we got our first computer, the Time computer, got a Gateway computer, and I went round there to sort of have a look at it and have a go on it. And they had that brilliant sort of cow print livery. I know livery is not the right word, but that was the insignia they used on the boxes, and I just thought it was impossibly cool. So
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. Yeah. And I've heard a rumor actually that they might be buying the Amiga brand. So it could be a big development in the world of home computing. Hopefully.
Is that from the same source that told us BMW was going to buy Reliant in the last episode?
I think this is a bit more reliable than that.
Come to think of it, Ben Lynch's Gateway computer might be my first ever experience of a search engine.
Wow, okay, wow, that's big.
Yeah, because I have it was all connected to the internet and everything, and his older brother was like driving the computer. And we went on. It was Ask Jeeves. It was definitely Ask Jeeves. And I got asked what I wanted to put in the search engine. And this is really on brand. I asked for a complete list of everyone who'd ever played in goal for Aston Villa.
Of course
That's my first ever internet search.
Yeah.
And probably, if you look at my phone now, it's probably the last internet search I made.
That's so cool that you can remember what your first search was. I have no idea what mine was. Probably something to do with Formula One or The Simpsons. But that's great that you remember.
Well, it's thanks to the Gateway cow branding that sticks in the mind so readily, I think. But yeah, that's always stuck in there. Ash Jeeves, Gateway, Aston Villa goalkeepers, the holy trinity.
If any of you listeners out there can remember what your first ever internet search was, please do let us know. We'd love to know. Even if it was in the 2000s, what the hell. We'll let you off.
Oh, that is going to be a rich seam. First thing I ever printed off was little pictures of Simpsons characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. Same here. Time now for the bulletin board. I don't actually have anything for the bulletin board, Stu, so I'm hoping you've got something.
I've just got one thing, but it's massive.
Okay.
It is probably the biggest thing I've put on the bulletin board for a long time. And I have to thank erstwhile podcast listener, not too sure if he's up to date. So, George, if you are, do feel free to correct me. Our old friend George Alty, who you might remember used to comment a lot on our YouTube. Having said that, he might still be commenting a lot on our YouTube.
Probably still is, yeah.
Probably still is, we just don't know. He alerted me to the fact that a bona fide 90s legend, who I'd given up all hope of ever seeing live, being in the same room as, is going on tour later this year. There's a handful of southern dates. There's one in Bristol, and I managed to snag a couple of tickets. Any guesses?
Well, I'd love to say that I could act this out, Stu, but I know who it is because you tried to drag me along with you. Go on, tell the listeners, who is it?
There's no need to let daylight in upon magic, Alex. Come on, just trying to generate a bit of jeopardy here for the listeners. I mean, it can only be Sir Jimmy Nail. He's back on the road. He's back on the boards this summer. He's going to be at St George's in Bristol. And I have to tell you, when I logged on to get the tickets, 10 o'clock last Friday morning, there was a Radiohead-esque rush at the online ticket counter.
Wow.
I logged in. I went to the ticket page at the time that the tickets became available. I thought, there's never going to be a big rush for these, but I'll just get it out of the way anyway while I'm here and I'm able to. I went on the page and I was about number 68 in the queue.
Hmm.
Then it kept refreshing down, refreshing down. Eventually, I got through. Then I'm in a situation where I'm picking two seats that are next to each other, clicking through to buy them, and I'm getting a message saying that somebody else has already selected these. You need to go back and select two more seats. So eventually, I managed to get them, but it was quite. I was panicking for a little bit. I thought maybe this is June. I thought maybe this is bound never to happen. Maybe it's written in the stars that I'm never going to see Jimmy. But we're going. It's mid-July. And yeah, your offer of a drink beforehand, but not actually joining me in the venue, I'm minded to take you up on that.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm really excited for you because I know you've waited a long time for this. I'm happy to just stand outside and lean against the Ford Sapphire Cosworth, which I'm sure is what
Mhm.
Sir Jimmy of Nail will be turning up in.
Yeah, absolutely. You can offer to look after his car for a tenner while he's inside.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I do have to ask you though, because we went on another sort of 90s act pilgrimage last year when we went to see Crash Test Dummies together.
yeah. Mhm.
What have Crash Test Dummies got that Jimmy Nail hasn't?
Um, I think it's more that I learned from my mistake the first time, and I'm no Crash Test Dummies have got one song that I knew. I suppose
Mhm.
I do know Crocodile Shoes, I suppose, and I did love Auf Wiedersehen Pet back in the day.
Well, it's a stories and songs tour, so it's more like an evening with. He's not just It's not just a flat out musical evening. He's telling stories from his career and performing a few songs. I'll provide the appropriate reportage at the time. That's coming up in July. Listeners, I'll let you know how I get on worshipping at the altar of the great Sir Jimmy Nail.
Seeing as I didn't have anything for the bulletin board, Stu, why don't we fill that gap with a anecdote roulette?
Okay, I'm ready to go if you are. Do you want a reminder of the titles here?
I think I can remember actually one from last time, and it's something to do with someone's crisp packet on the bum. Is that one?
The man with the salt packet on his
Oh,
bum.
salt packet on his bum. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Go on.
the rejected Kate Bush song title. There's not a lot to this one, actually. It's been on the list for a long time, the man with the salt packet on his bum, so we'll address it now. I think this was at Chessington World of Adventures on a family trip somewhere. I could be wrong. I'm not sure, but this is where it's set in my mind anyway. And basically, all it is that I'm in a queue for a ride with my mum and dad. There's people stood in front of us in the queue. The man stood directly in front of us in the queue has a tiny catering packet of salt stuck to the outside of his trousers,
Mhm.
like on one of the jean pockets on the,
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
rump, shall we say?
Hmm.
And I just kept reaching up and trying to knock the salt packet off of this guy for him because thinking, oh, that's the right thing to do. He doesn't want to walk around with a salt packet stuck to his rear end. He's going to look like look like a fool. But my mum and dad kept stopping me, and I never did get to do that. That's basically it. That's the story because it was obviously completely in my eye line due to the
Yeah.
disparity in height. All I could focus on was this little salt packet stuck to the guy's rear end. And my mum and dad stopped me from removing it. And that's about all there is to the story. Just a little one, but notable all the same, I think.
Your parents stopped you from committing something that may well have got you cancelled in this day and age. This is the sort of thing that would have surfaced, in a few months, and you would have been there would have been calls for you to resign from the podcast because of this story that had come out.
Well, aren't there always calls for me to resign from the podcast for one reason or another?
Yeah, that's true.
Um, I think I might have been able to use a level of dexterity so that this guy would not have noticed
Hmm.
that it had been removed from his rear end. I think I'd have been able to, I'd use a flick or just a flick of the hand just to knock this thing away. And then,
Yeah,
even if he did turn around, of course, he's not going to be looking at me. There you go. He's not going to be looking at me. He's going to be looking straight at my dad, who will be
yeah,
as tall as the fella, and my
yeah.
dad's going to cop it. So perfect.
You could have gone for a sort of Bishop Brenham sort of approach and just gone very firm and slapped him very hard on the bum and then just like talked your way out of it. Like, how could that possibly have been what had happened?
And then the guy realizes like 2 days later,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
he did knock a salt packet off my bum,
your dad's taken a photo and it's somehow got to him.
blown up 10 by 8. Time now for What's the Most 90s, and eagle-eared listeners will know exactly what the topic is on this episode because we did the sister topic in our last episode, our first episode back after our winter break. This is another one from the desk of Adam J. Fisher, our ideas man, and this is What's the Most 90s Goodbye. So, Alex, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I've got two dates here, which I think will typify my choice. They are the 17th of July, 1995, and the 31st of May, 1998. Do you know what happened on those two dates?
Ooh, 31st of May 98. So these are. Oh, hang on. Is this Robbie leaving Take That and Jerry leaving the Spice Girls?
It is very good.
Ah,
Very
yes.
good. Because my choice for what's the most 90s goodbye is people leaving popular pop bands. Because this seems like something that was very big in the 90s. They were the two big examples I could think of. I'm sure there's more. Listeners, do let us know if there are any other big ones. I'm sure Ben must have left A1 at some point, something like that. And it's not something I really think of happening in the 2000s, particularly. I mean, it must have happened before in the 80s and the 70s, so maybe I've gone wrong there. But I can't think of any really significant pop band leavings. Um, well, I can actually, but maybe not as big as Jerry and Robbie, which was so huge that they were tabloid news, tabloid
Mhm.
fodder, and yeah, it just seemed like a very 90s phenomena. And any pop band leavings subsequently, I think, are just imitations of these real benchmarks of the game. So yeah, that's my choice. It's people leaving pop bands in the 90s.
That's excellent. And I think, given the topic of our episode tonight overall, I think we already have a winner. I don't think I can possibly depose this with my choice. I've gone a bit straighter down the line, and I've gone for an actual 90s goodbye, and I've gone for Smell You Later.
Nice one, yeah.
So, Smell You Later, of course, probably its most famous use in the 90s in the opening theme tune to The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Mhm.
which I got into in a big way when it started being repeated after The Simpsons double bill on BBC Two on a weekday evening. Myself and friend of the pod, pop expert of the pod, Diamond Joe Barter, were big into Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, to the point where Joe took it upon himself to write out the lyrics to the theme tune for me, which I remember him doing, transcribing them with pen and paper because I wasn't quite sure on a couple of the words. But of course, he says "You're home, smell you later" to the cab driver who drops him off. This also appears in The Simpsons in one of those episodes where it's a flash forward to, I think it's the one where Bart is a failing musician and him and Ralph
Okay.
have got a band. So we're talking like mid 2000s Simpsons. So
Mhm.
not obviously peak era. But I think Nelson has become the manager of a club that they're trying to get a gig at, and Nelson signs off his message to them with "Smell you later," and then one of them says, "I can't believe that eventually replaced goodbye." And that
Yeah,
is something that myself and wife of the pod Beth use on occasion when we leave the house as well, in its entirety. So I've gone with "Smell You Later" as the most 90s goodbye for me for a number of reasons, mainly being used in my favourite television shows of the day. But for a goodbye in a more tangible sense, I don't think you can beat Robbie and Jerry. I really don't think we can. I lay my sword down on this occasion.
it's very gracious of you, and I gladly accept that, and I'll put it in the ledger. Joining us for our episode today on 90s girl bands and the girl power movement is returning guest, host of the Now That's What I Call Bullshit and Dawson's Weekly podcast, and one quarter of the podcast juggernaut. It's Catherine Donnelly. How
Oh,
are you, Catherine?
hi. I am okay. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. But you
Good.
are battling through recovery of a lurgy that's gone to your house, aren't you?
That's exactly what's happening. So if there's little pauses for coughs, I do apologise. But we're here. We battle through. The juggernaut continues.
Exactly. Yeah, it takes more than that to stop the juggernaut.
It absolutely does.
The juggernaut above all things. Well, thank you so much for battling through. We appreciate you joining us.
This is what juggernauts do.
So yeah, this episode is something we've been meaning to do for literally years, I think. It just seems like such a big part of the 90s, girl power and girl bands in general. But we were finally prompted to do it actually by the BBC documentary series Girl Bands Forever, which was actually on, I think, last autumn. So as usual, we are several paces behind the zeitgeist with this. But we all watched it and we're going to have some comments on that in a bit. One little caveat is that me and Stu are both men. We're not hiding that. That's always been the case. We are aware that we are going to be talking about girl power and the significance of it. So our opinions might not hold the same weight as Catherine's or some other people listening, and we just wanted to say that out front, because the idea of two heterosexual cisgendered white men talking at length about girl power as though they're experts on the subject is a bit cringeworthy. So I just thought I'd say that at the top. Um, but without further ado, let's get into the actual topic. What were your experiences, both of you, with girl bands and the girl power movement on a personal level? Stu, let's start with you.
So this came at a sort of crossroads in my musical journey, if you like. So when the Spice Girls first arrive, this is in the post Take That split era, and I am post Take That and pre Stereophonics were my first sort of favorite rock band that I get into, and the Spice Girls come along at just that moment to take the slot and become my favorite band for the next sort of 18 months or so. And I can remember the first time I ever saw them. I might have mentioned it on the podcast before, that it's the performance of Wannabe live from Tokyo on Top of the Pops, and I think it's before it reaches number one. It might even have been before the single gets released, and it was like a sort of preview of the song. And the sight of Sporty Spice performing the song in a full Liverpool kit, it was a real cross of the streams for me. My two favourite things, football and music, coming together in a way that I hadn't seen them come together before outside terrible FA Cup final songs, things like that. And by Christmas that year, I remember getting the album on cassette for Christmas that year, and I got one of those small books that was like all about somebody and all about the different facts about this person, and it was all about Mel C, who was my favourite Spice Girl. So I got that duo as a Christmas present that year. Um, I wasn't really into any other girl bands apart from Spice Girls at that time, I'm afraid. But that is my memory of how it came into being for me, anyway.
Similar, Stew, actually, but I think for me, and this is something that I think maybe we'll get into as we go along, there was a lot of really great girl band, like vocal harmony stuff coming out of the US in the early 90s. So, like, the ones that stand out for me massively are SWV, who did Right
Hmm.
Here, the Michael Jackson sample in that one, Jade, Brownstone. And so, like, and On Vogue, of course, like On Vogue, and then things like Wilson Phillips. And that was all quite like vocally harmony stuff. And it was sort of sold on the vocal harmonies, right? And then you get into the mid 90s and like, it's that funny thing, isn't it? That like with the Spice Girls, that you remember it. You remember seeing Wannabe for the first time, and I remember seeing it maybe on Top of the Pops or something like that. I do remember that performance that you're referring to, Stu. I remember it, and Mel C in the Liverpool kit.
Hmm.
But for me, I remember seeing it, but funny enough, with the Spice Girls, it was my younger sibling who was really into the Spice Girls. I really liked All Saints, and I'm sure we'll get into it when we talked about the documentary, but I saw All Saints in like 1994 when it was just Mel and Shaznay.
Oh
I
wow!
s- I saw them at like a Smash Hits Roadshow or something like that. Um, so they were sort of vaguely on my radar. So they would be the big sort of girl band of the 90s that I would go to. And I appreciate the Spice Girls far more in retrospect. I still think All Saints are better, and I have no doubt we'll get into that. But I appreciate what the Spice Girls were doing, and I appreciate what the Spice Girls did. But I didn't actually get the only Spice Girls thing I've ever owned was, hilariously enough, which looking back on it because it's shit, is the third album they did after Jerry left. And I had that, but my younger sibling had the first two, which were in terms of pop music better albums.
Yeah.
But it's a funny one for me because the Spice Girls had that real place, and it was the summer of 1996, and there was so much going on in British music, and there was so like it was just I just have those really strong memories of being with my friends and singing "Wannabe," even though I wasn't like I love the Spice Girls, I think they're brilliant. I did enjoy the song, but it's really funny, really strong memories around the Spice Girls that summer. So it's a
Mm.
special thing, really, especially as like a 14-year-old girl to see women doing that. But I think maybe at the time I thought it was a bit cringe. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if I really appreciated fully what they were doing.
I suppose it might depend a lot on what you were already listening to. If you were already into cooler bands or more indie or guitar based music, then you might see it as a bit cringeworthy.
Yeah, Alex, you're right, because I think that I was really obsessed with Jagged Little Pill and it came out the year before. So I think
Okay.
maybe when you sort of put those things together, it would make a bit of sense that I gravitated towards the All Saints stuff
hmm
and maybe thought the Spice Girls were a bit cringe. But as I said, like in retrospect, I've got a huge amount of respect for them,
Yeah.
especially when after watching that documentary more so.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm sort of the other way around in that I was into the Spice Girls when they first came out. I hadn't really been into anything specific before this. I don't think there was no one I would say, oh, that's my favorite band or that's my favorite artist. It was just the sort of random, listening to what my dad and mum had lying around or what my brother was listening to. And then the Spice Girls came along and it's like, oh, this is a band I can sort of get on board with. I can actually I not identify with, but I can identify the each member and they all have identities and I know the songs and they're big and everyone's talking about them. Yeah, then All Saints came along. But I think in as I say in retrospect, I think All Saints I now see as being a bit cooler and maybe a bit better. But at the time, it was definitely Spice Girls, and Spice Girls were probably the only girl band I was ever really into at all, because it was kind of a small, short window where I got into pop music, and then I got into guitar music with like the Stereophonics, and same as Stu, and Top Loader, and that sort of rock music came along so soon after that there wasn't a big window. But I did really like the Spice Girls. I had both those first albums taped off CDs that I'd hired from the library, as I mentioned before. Sorry, Gorsham Library. Actually, I'm not sorry. I keep saying that, but I'm not sorry because
The warrant's still outstanding.
I mean they didn't lose out. I'm sorry to Sony Music or whoever it was,
I
EMI.
definitely don't be sorry to them.
No, absolutely.
Dan'd have a fit if he heard you say that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that I stole from them, but I'm sorry that I stole from the Spice Girls themselves.
I think they're all right, Alex.
Yeah, I think they're all right, aren't they?
It's interesting to me talking to you two as aforementioned um cis hetero white men that you have a link to girl bands at all. And I think that that's really cool because I think that if we talked about boy bands in the same way, you might not feel that way. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm like, now tell me how much you loved Boyzone, you might both be like, maybe not so much, Catherine. But the fact that you're able to say, no, I really like the Spice Girls. I saw they were good. And I think that that sort of moves away from what they were intended to do, which was to hit a female demographic, right? So like I find it cool that there's men there who were going in the 90s, especially teenage boys going, no, I like them.
Mhm.
It
I think it
speaks a
was
lot for a broad appeal.
yeah. I mean, I was 11 when that first album came out. 11, about to turn 12. It was the first year of secondary school, and I remember everyone being into them, like boys and girls. And like you say, looking back, I think that is quite cool that there was no boundaries and people were happy
Mm,
to say that they liked them and it wasn't all like the boys weren't all just sexualizing them. It wasn't just about which one you fancy. People actually like the music. But I think when you're at that age, it's you haven't quite got to the awkward year 8, year 9 age where you have to be cool at all times and everyone is self-policing and it's you can't step out of line at all in terms of anything to do with like trends and what's cool. So it was kind of a more innocent time, I suppose, to use the cliche. But yeah, everyone was into it in my class in year 7 for sure.
the other band I just want to talk about because I know we'll move on. Um, Eternal. And they always get forgotten and they always get kind of left off, but they were brilliant. That first album, Always and Forever. If we're just talking purely about British girl bands, that would have been and it had more in common with that sort of American vocal harmony stuff. But it was a great album, and like you kind of forget that Spice Girls only really went for about 2.5 years, didn't they? 3 years, and
Mm-hmm.
Eternal kept on going, and I think Eternal might have got into the noughts, but they definitely started really early in the 90s, maybe 93, 94.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
first album, they're gonna get onto my top five. I just need you to know that now. And I struggle. I can think about a lot of US girl bands, um, but I struggle to sort of, apart from going Spice Girls in the 90s, the Spice Girls and All Saints, like good ones, because we know that like people like Vanilla existed. My God. Um,
More of whom later, I can assure you.
oh,
More,
I
much more of whom
cannot
later.
wait. I mean, when I saw that on the documentary, it was like it was like I experienced some sort of like light PTSD. I was like, I can't believe that got made. And I can't believe they stood in that crap pool in like Benidorm or somewhere like that going, mana mana, like seriously. Shocking, shocking.
Alex, you do surprise me because you've always told me in private that you were into West Coast gangster rap since a very early age, and that that was the only genre of music that mattered to you. So I think this is very big of you to sort of come out and admit this on the podcast.
Well, it's I was able to be quite diverse with my music taste. Let's just say that. No, the gangster rap and West Coast hip hop came in. We came in actually with Eminem. His first single, I think, came out maybe in '98. I know the album came out in '99. So that is only 2 years, 2.5 years, like Catherine said. So it was a short window for me, and then I was on to that sort of stuff.
It's crazy the way that like millennials specifically, the broad like church of music that we're into, that
Mhm.
like I can be like, no, 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 I was listening to Alanis Morissette, like her screaming "You Ought to Know," and then like sitting down to a nice bit of Eternal, like
Mm.
the the I'm going to credit now. That's what I call music for a little bit of that, guys.
Mhm.
Honestly,
Mhm. Oh yeah,
because we
definitely.
were just like right, and I think maybe not being able to stream and then watching Top of the Pops and things like that, that you just saw everything, didn't you?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I hadn't really thought about that. The fact that compilation CDs and Top of the Pops is what we were relying on, all Radio 1, just whatever was being played on the radio. You couldn't just pick a playlist of the precise genre that you wanted to listen to. So yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
good
that like
point.
sort of lack of choice gave us actually probably a lot more in our sort of musical taste arsenal. So you could like jump from the Spice Girls over to West Coast gangster rap really
Mhm.
easily.
Right then, shall we move on to the documentary itself? So, yeah, girl bands forever. It's still on the iPlayer, and everyone should go
It
and watch
is
it because it's
great.
pretty good. And I suppose it's the follow up to Boy Bands Forever, which was on, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so, which was also very good. But Catherine, what were your thoughts on the documentary?
I thought it was great. I really enjoyed watching it. I thought that some of it was, in fact, a lot of it was truly horrifying, truly horrifying. Um, the way that women specifically are treated in the music industry, and what jumped out for me, especially around maternity
Mhm.
and having children, was really very shocking. Like, I think it came out a while ago that Nicole Appleton had sort of trigger warning everyone, but Nicole Appleton had terminated that pregnancy at the same time it's raised in the documentary. But that was what during her relationship with Robbie Williams, wasn't it? And she and Mel Blatt had gone and had that baby, and it effectively broke up All Saints. And then watching Natasha Hamilton talk about it, and that broke up Atomic Kitten. Because people just had terrible, like, sort of postpartum, postnatal mental health issues, and no one cared. Like Natasha Hamilton saying that she was told to take at least 6 months off, and they gave her 2 weeks. And actually, when you look at it and you think, God, those girl bands didn't really stay together for long. And you think that Mel B and Victoria went and had children. And I wonder if that was wanting to step back from the Spice Girls was all a part of that. It really stuck out for me very, very strongly. More so, like, and we've always known it, just how male centric the music industry is. But gosh, that a really strong and quite sad reminder of that, because literally pretty much every single one of those girl bands broke up because they wanted to have children, and the managers and the record labels wouldn't support that.
Yeah, that was a big note I had from watching the documentary was around that, and sort of in the same way, I think it's Kelly Bryan from Eternal who comments that they were all sent to a health farm, weren't they, for a period of time by their management.
And
Um,
you see the videos of them, and they were slim women.
mm.
like it's crazy.
Yeah, like maternity seemed like, I mean, it was obviously so much a bigger issue for girl bands than paternity was for boy bands, you know. And like you say, the whole industry was dominated by men. So yeah, there's the empathy and the lived experience is just completely different. So it's just not surprising. And it's not just dominated by men, it's dominated by ruthless record exec men who
Mm.
not just can't really empathize or don't care about what it's like to be pregnant or to have a baby as a woman, but they also just care about what's going to make the most money. So throughout the documentary, you see that all the time with split up or people going solo, and you just think it's the people behind the scenes that are sort of dictating that or having a big say, at least in all those comings and goings. But then when it goes wrong or when there's conflict, you know that it's not going to be those male record execs who are going to get it. In the tabloids, it's going to be the women themselves who are going to be trashed and abused and blamed and whatnot. It's the same with all these stocks, like the Beckham stock as well, and the boy band stock. It just reminds you how bad that the British tabloid press was in the 90s, and
Oh,
still
shocking.
is, but in the 90s, just really vile.
And massively vile to women and like Kerry Katona. Um, like I have a decent amount of sympathy for because again, it's interesting when you put the two things next to each other. That Brian McFadden stayed in Westlife, everything carried on going along, ticking along for him as it would have. She had two children. She clearly had a huge amount of issues. He, I think, cheated on her and paid off the woman who he cheated on her with. And it still ended up coming out, and she ended up alone without her career. And it was really sad, and it impacted him not at all. And I'm not necessarily saying that's his fault, but that's the way the industry and particularly the tabloids work. That Kerry bore the brunt of it because she dared get with a member of a popular boy band.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the general notes I made here, and I felt the same when I watched the companion boy band documentary the year before, is that all the way through my fandom of Take That and then subsequently the Spice Girls, all I wanted to do at that age was do what they were doing and be in a pop band and do that and release records and live that lifestyle. But obviously now, knowing a lot more about what actually went on, I don't think I can imagine anything worse.
Well, it's all that sort of thing, isn't it? Of it, yeah, it looks so glamorous. The music industry looks so glamorous, but you scratch the surface just ever so slightly, and the the shine comes away real quickly, and what's underneath
Mhm.
isn't so nice. And it really like and I have no doubt in my mind that I'm not saying the boy bands had it easy. I think they had it slightly easier. I think partly because of like they didn't have the same amount of pressure from the tabloids, and certainly they weren't necessarily getting called fat all the time and things
Mm.
like that, and being insulted for everything they did. But I think that there was a horrendous amount of abuse that went on with the boy bands as well. Like I think that they were probably financially and emotionally and mentally abused as well. I don't think that it was just a walk in the park for them, but I
Mm.
think that I thought it was interesting when you watched it as well, just how manufactured all of the girls' bands that we looked at were. Like none of them, apart from All Saints, which maybe there's something to be said here, apart from All Saints, were all put together in some way, shape, or form,
Mm. Yeah,
which I thought was
absolutely.
interesting. Through auditions and things like that.
Yeah, I do wonder with the when certain artists would go solo, like Louise and Jerry. You kind of wonder how much that was influenced by people in their ear, like record labels saying, we can make a bigger thing of you if you go solo.
Or it's that thing, isn't it, that they don't really want to be there anymore. It's fine. We can just give them a solo career. It'll be all right. We can still make money off them.
Yeah, yeah, and screw the people who are left behind. But I
Well, Eternal
suppose,
did all right.
yeah, Eternal did okay, and Spice Girls didn't last much longer, but they at least had one more album, didn't they? But Spice Girls were so huge, they'd sort of they'd kind of done it, I suppose, hadn't they? They really didn't have a huge amount of motivation to carry on doing it at that point.
Yeah, why would you carry on? Because I think it must. I think that the emotional and physical strain that you must be going on, like, because one of another thing that you hear a lot of is we were in Tokyo and we were here and we were there and we had to get up and we had to do this and we had to do that. That must. It seems glamorous and it seems lovely, but that must take an incredible amount of strain on you physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember Dan going to Tokyo and it just to do a couple of shows and it absolutely him up. He was like off it for like a week.
Hmm.
So I can't imagine what it must be like to be like thrown around those time zones and be made to get on stage. And that must be
Mm.
incredibly taxing. And I imagine the burnout happens really quickly and it's very, very real.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Hmm.
I can't even imagine adding things like pregnancy and stuff like that into it. I can't even imagine
Yeah.
how these women did some of these things.
I don't like leaving the county if I can help it.
Same. I don't like leaving the
Yeah.
house, Stu.
I certainly don't like having to go on a motorway for a gig. That's, if that's in the question, then maybe we should leave it.
I've got a 20-mile radius and no
Yeah,
motorways.
quite right, quite right.
Yeah, one thing that came out of the documentary for me was just how emotional it was. I think more emotional than the boy band's documentary. But I found it emotional as a sort of narrative. And I think in the final episode near the end, when they show the Sugar Babes come on stage at Glastonbury, like the original lineup
Hmm.
of the Sugar Babes, and they're playing I think how I feel about you now. I can't think what the actual song title
It
is,
was
but
about you
first
now,
song.
yeah,
Yeah,
about you
about you
now.
now, that's it. And I had like a lump in my throat for that bit because it's like it's that narrative arc that I'm always banging on about on this podcast. The three act narrative where you start off with the peak, the high, everyone's excited. We're going to this exciting journey where we're a new band, it's amazing. Then you have the downfall where it's all falls apart and there's the turmoil, and then you come out of that at the other end and maybe it's a reunion or just a friendship reunion, or you've just grown up and you've sort of seen it through to the other side. And this documentary, I think, had that, especially with the Atomic Kitten, with that final performance. I just thought, yeah, just it's sort of a nice ending to a kind of tumultuous story, and
Hmm.
yeah, I thought it was quite emotional overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think like watching it, you get the sense that the strength of some of these women to go, I'm not doing this anymore. That must have been so difficult. Like to effectively go to your friends, I know you all want to do this, but I don't, and I can't do it anymore. And like it's a really good example of sometimes having to put yourself first and not sort of like understand what you need. And even if you're letting other people down, saying, no, I can't do it. Like Jerry Halliwell, the strength it must have taken her to walk away from the Spice Girls while they were at their peak is quite crazy. And I do probably think for someone like Jerry Halliwell, there was like listen, if you want to walk away, you can have a solo career.
Hmm.
And Jerry Halliwell has to have been incredibly confident because she did have a solo career, and that woman cannot sing. She can't. Like she
It's
cannot
true.
sing. I mean, a lot of the
True.
Spice Girls can't sing, which is absolutely amazing to me that they were so. And I think that it's like that sort of idea of like branding and marketing over all else.
Mm.
Because
Hmm.
actually, when you look at a lot of these girl bands, not all of them are great singers.
I hope you're not including
Um,
Mel C in this.
Oh
I'll just
God,
say
no,
that now.
Mel C and Emma were definitely the singers in the band, and I
Okay.
think I know we've had this conversation before that like either Dan had listened to something or he'd listened to a producer talk about it, and the entire thing was built around Emma's voice in the same way Girls Aloud was built around Nadine's
Hmm.
voice, and Atomic Kitten you can tell was built around Natasha's voice, and
Yeah.
and maybe I don't know if like the boy bands, because always the boy bands seem to last longer, and I don't know if it's because there was less pressure on them and because there wasn't the sort of maternity postpartum stuff, and or just that they were like they weren't getting the same sort of like slaying from the tabloids. I don't know why boy bands sometimes seem to be able to go on a bit longer, whether it's a gender thing or whether it's like sort of an external pressure thing. But it is really interesting to me that, that a lot of those women were able to go, I can't do this and I'm not going to do it. I think
Mhm.
that's amazing, really, because I can't imagine like to have all of that money in front of you and to know your friends want to do something and go, nah, not doing it.
Stu, will you be doing that with the podcast anytime soon? Just so I've got some
Well,
warning.
I'm keeping my options open. Let's just say I'm looking at options. Okay.
Okay, great. I'll talk to Jeff.
If you need a bit of girl power, a little bit of girl power, put yourself first, Stu.
Jeff's been in my ear telling me that I can have a solo career, so I'm gonna go off and do my own thing.
You're the Louise. I'm the Kelly.
Just don't be an overconfident Jerry Halliwell, is all I'm saying, Stu.
I'm following the quickly Kevin model. I'm leaving the 90s behind. I'm going to talk about the noughties from now on. So, with the documentary covered, the next thing we should address is girl power itself and maybe try and come up with a definition of what it meant then and what the legacy of it is now, if that isn't too difficult a thing for three-quarters of a podcast juggernaut to do between themselves.
We'll try.
I mean, my first thought on this is that people still talk about girl power, 25, 30 years later. So it's still there. It's one of the biggest things of 90s pop culture, if you ask me. And the documentary shows that all of the bands that were spoken about have reformed at various times, some of them very recently. And there's still that huge public interest in going to see them live if they do reform for a few shows, going to see them. And that's huge for me in terms of the legacy of girl power that people are still 30 years later interested in going to see the original lineup of these bands. You spoke about it earlier, Alex, but the reception that the original Sugar Babes lineup got at Glastonbury when they performed together says it all for me, really, about the staying power of girl power in the 2020s.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about girl power is, like, it's a difficult one because you sort of look at it as like a teenage girl and you can understand the power of that. And you can understand what it means to see women doing that and being so successful and being really really good at what they do, but also there's like a more sort of cynical view of it, that it was a marketing ploy and it was an incredibly clever marketing ploy and it really really worked. It really worked because it came in at a time that things were, sorry to use the new Labour campaign, but things were starting to get better. Like the UK sort of, the British invasion stuff, the UK people thinking is really, really cool. And then you get this girl band coming and going, girl power. And I think that I think that both things can be true at once. Like, I think that it can be an incredibly powering thing for young women. At the same time, it can be a cynical marketing ploy to sell records. And I don't think that it has to be one or the other. Um, Certainly, looking back on it, it was very simplistic. But then it needed to be, no like complex sort of concept is gonna get people to listen to a band. But it was very, very simplistic, and there was a great deal of sort of ownership from the Spice Girls about who they were. But sometimes it almost felt like an excuse, and it was a bit like, so this idea of girl power is running through the Renaissance Hotel like flipping off old white men, which is great, but like it's just such a complex like sociological, philosophical, like psychological feminist idea that's sort of like overly simplified and then fed back to everyone, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. And like, I really appreciate it looking back on it, and I really appreciate what it did for me as a teenage girl, because there was like a level of empowerment about it, but I think it's all too simplified. And I
Mhm.
wish that that girl power had gone a bit further, in the sense that like there was a little bit more of, yeah, please don't talk about us like that. Like, there's that infamous thing where Chris Evans on TFI Friday wanted to wed Victoria Beckham after she'd had a baby.
Is your weight back to normal?
Yeah, it is.
Can I check? Do you mind?
Oh no, you did
come
this
on.
to Jerry, didn't you?
Come on.
No, but Jerry was like really small.
Yeah, but it's all right.
This is horrible.
She only got to number 2. It's all right.
No. Yeah, number 2's great.
Is it all right, number 2?
Okay.
You can afford number 2s, can't you? H stone's not bad at all, is it?
Oh yes, I remember this. Yeah,
And like girl power would have been telling him to off.
yeah, very unedifying.
I'm not blaming Victoria Beckham because oh my god, I can't imagine what that must have felt like. But like I think that there was more that could have gone further, and so I think that there's a level of it feeling a bit performative, I suppose. But I think its legacy is real. Was that a bit negative?
No, I think that's just honest. But yeah, from what I was reading, everyone seems to agree with you, Catherine, in that it's not divisive. It's complex. It's not as simple as yes, it's all good, or no, it's all cynical. And it sort of divides different commenters. Like I was reading what Shirley Manson was saying, the lead singer of Garbage, and she was saying that she hated the Spice Girls. She just thought it was a cynical marketing ploy. And she obviously would have been in the band. Garbage would have been going strong at that point.
So good.
But then also Lauren Maybury, the lead singer of Churches, has sort of said how she was quite inspired by the Spice Girls, and she would have been, I think she's probably the same age as us, roughly. So she would have been into the Spice Girls before she was making music herself, and she was inspired by them. So I think there probably would be quite a big divide, but based on how old you were when it all launched and when it happened, because girl power, the actual phrase came from the Riot Girl movement, in the early 90s. So yeah, the Riot Girl movement was like, I suppose, the more authentic, and empowered version of girl power, wasn't it? Like bands like Bikini Kill and Le Tigre, and Kathleen Hanna, who were sort of already doing it and really speaking truth to power and not being completely under the control of people like Simon Fuller and Virgin Records and stuff. So I can imagine if you're someone like Shirley Manson who's already in that scene and is inspired by people like Bikini Kill, when the Spice Girls come along and do Wannabe and talk about girl power, it's going to feel very different to it would to 11-year-old boy or girl in 1996 when they first come across the Spice Girls. It's a completely different context to come at it from.
Well, it's probably incredibly frustrating for a woman like Shirley Manson as well to be like making the music she's doing and then watching this group of women rock up who can't really sing all that well. Like, what did Kelly from Eternal say? She was like, oh, she thought it was an like a rough demo.
Yeah, that's
and she
right.
was like,
yeah,
oh no,
yeah.
this is it. This is it. And I think that it is output and input, isn't it? So like it's like they put that out into the world and what you do with it is entirely up to you. And like you can choose to criticize it and go, this is shit, or you can choose to go, no, like we'll take the positives from it. And I think that now I do really take the positives from it. I think as a 14-year-old girl there was aspects of it I thought that were a bit shit, but I think as you sort of alluded to or actually explicitly said earlier, Alex, I was probably at an age where there was a decent amount of self-policing, and it was certainly a lot cooler for me to listen to Alanis Morissette and Pulp and Blur than it was admit to liking the Spice Girls. So, but I would argue that All Saints, in the way that they were and the way that they behaved, had more girl power. There was like a lot more self-possession, I felt like, with All Saints, and what they were doing was more interesting and like never ever had more girl power than Wannabe did. In my humble opinion, and I think I really strongly feel like it's output and input, and I'm sure that you'll have listeners that were like, well, I felt really empowered by it, and to that I say that is absolutely amazing, because then it's done its job. And I do think it was cynical, but if it did its job in that sense, then it's amazing.
Yeah, there's Kelly Bryan who says she thought that it was a rough demo, and then there's Mel Blatt who claims not to know what the actual title of Wannabe is, which I thought was quite funny as well.
Our Mel.
Is that the Zigga Zigar one? Is
Yes.
that what that is?
Is that the Zigga Zigar one? Yeah, come on now. You know what that is. Everyone knows what that is. And it's like a nice concept, wannabe. Like,
Mm.
friendship never ends. And like, if you want to be with me, you're gonna have to get along with my friends. That's really nice. But again, like, it is simplistic. It leaves a lot of the complexities out. But that's okay. Because what can we expect from like a girl band who is heavily controlled by a load of men? They were doing their best.
Yeah, yeah. I know a couple of people, a couple of friends who have sort of gone into academia in the field of like sociology and gender equality, and they were like mega Spice Girls fans when they were in year seven, and they're super proud of that, and I think they do refer to that as being like a quite a formative movement for them, you know.
Well, I think if that's the case, then Alex, then it's done its job. Like, that's amazing. And I actually, it seems to be coming out quite a lot. It's like what age this hit you at, would make things different. But again, like, I would argue Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill had more girl power than a Spice Girls song. But I really think that if the Spice Girls have inspired anyone, then that is like amazing, and um, they did their job.
So just before we move on from this section, I've got a quote here from Jenny Stevens, who was writing in Vice about the girl power phenomena, and I think this is quite a good quote actually, just to end this section on. And she said, "Critiques of the Spice Girls are valid and necessary, but what they often miss is a very simple fact: that girl power was never intended to be an academic feminist perspective. It was never meant to promote a post-structuralist vision of a utopian future where male hegemony was overthrown. It was pop music made for little girls to inspire them to be confident and to believe in their abilities and support their friends. It was shallow, easy to understand, and very basic, and that was exactly the point." Okay, to finish, let's pick our top five girl band songs then. Now,
Mhm.
this is tricky, isn't it? Because what exactly are the parameters? Are we including? And
Yeah,
this
you're
is
going to
something.
put rules in place, you two.
Well, this is something that we should have actually said at the start. Another caveat, along with the male privilege thing, was we are going to be talking. We have talked exclusively about British bands. We haven't talked
Yeah.
about American girl bands and the girl power movement. Maybe it's just because of where we're from, but it seemed like a UK based phenomena. And obviously the Spice Girls were huge in America, so it's spread over there. But I don't really know how they see it from their perspective. I'd love to know if anyone's listening from the States, maybe in North Carolina. Do let us know what you think about the girl power movement in America. So with these top fives, how how have you two gone about it? Have you included American bands?
I have, but I can think on the hoof. I'm okay too. Notice how none of us have mentioned Bewitch up to now. Shocking, that, isn't it?
My list is also entirely UK based. So
Okay.
that's the way it is. There was no prejudice there. That was just the way it fell.
Okay. And my other question about the parameters is the songs have you just chosen songs that were released in the 90s, even if the band, started in the 90s, or have you strayed into the 2000s?
I was going to stray into 2000, but I thought I'd get my wrist slapped, so I didn't. But I was really tempted to. And I bet you both know the song I'm thinking about
Uh,
because it's just one of the best pop songs ever made, ever.
okay. Well, I was struggling to
Okay.
find five that were just from the 90s anyway, so I'm going to throw in one
Oh.
from the 2000s because it's a band that was prominent in the documentary. So, okay, then Stu, do you want to go through your top five?
I certainly can. I'll keep it brief. Coming in at number five, I had to put them in somewhere just to give them mention, but I do actually have a fondness for this. It is No Way, No Way by Vanilla.
Oh,
I put them in
Stu!
at number five.
No way, no way. Mana mana. No way, no way. Mana mana.
Um, it's basically, Catherine, it's because of what we've spoken about earlier in that I can't really believe that it was ever made and that it got released and that the public at large got to know
It's
about it. It was
crazy.
even on Top of the Pops. They performed it live on Top of the Pops, and I mean, it's not great. I mean, I don't wish to sit here and say that anybody's art that they've created and released upon the world is bad. But this isn't great. I think we can all agree. So I've gone for No Way No Way by Vanilla at number five. Number four, I've gone for the Eurovision entry for the UK in 1999. Quiz question for you. Anybody know?
No idea. And you're going to tell me, and I'm going to know and be really annoyed at myself.
It came up in the documentary. There was one of the members of this band went on to be
Oh,
a
not the
member
one
in
with
another
Jade
band.
from the Sugar Babes in.
No.
Oh, Jenny Frost. Oh, right. Precious. No, not Precious. What are
Yes,
they
correct.
called?
Yes, say it
Are they
again by
Precious?
Precious. Yeah, absolutely. I've put that in at
Oh,
number four.
yeah.
Yeah, so I just think that's a really great song, and it did win the chance to go and represent UK at Eurovision in 1999. And despite its lowly placing in the Eurovision Song Contest in the end in 1999, I still think it's a great song. So I've put Precious in there at number four. Would say it again. Then we go to the big hitters. Basically, number three, I've gone for another song we've mentioned already, "Never Ever" by All Saints, which is my favourite song of theirs. It just pips "I Know Where It's At" as my favourite All Saints song. It's one of those ones that just endures and sounds really as fresh now as it was when it was released, which I don't think I can say of any other songs in the top five of mine here. I think all of the other ones are of their time in the 90s, but I do think that the All Saints one carries on down the years as sounding as fresh as it did on the day it was released. Number two, I've gone for my favourite Spice Girls song with Alex, one of the best bass lines in 90s pop. Who Do You Think You Are?
That was going to be on my list, and I've gone with something else, but I'm glad you've mentioned it because it's a banger, that one.
Yeah, we're representing it absolutely. And in at number one, I've always had a fondness for this song, and I'm glad it got to number one. It was their first and only, I think, number one. My favourite girl band song of the 90s is "I Want to Be the Only One" by Eternal.
Yes. Great choices.
Yeah,
And
I love listening to that song. BB
It's a
Winans, I
great,
think, is excellent vocalist as well.
it's such a good vibe of a song.
Hmm.
I want to be the only one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You can't help but feel slightly happier after you've
Yes.
finished listening to it than when you started. And that's why I've gone for it. Yeah, so "I Want to Be the Only One" by Eternal is my top girl band song of the 90s. Possibly slightly underrated, I think, in the 90s, and definitely worthy of my top spot here for me.
I'll be all you need, all you need. I wanna be the only one to hold you, touch you from the right. I wanna be the only one to soothe you, erase all the pain. I wanna be the only one to love you over again. I wanna be the only one, the only one, the only one I am.
right, Catherine, I'm going to make you go last because I think you're the headline act, and I think you should go last for this.
Thank you
Um,
so much to give me a chance to try and get my thoughts in order.
My number five is the one that isn't actually from the 90s, but because of the documentary, I had to put it on, and it is About You Now by the Sugar Babes because it's the triumphant return in Glastonbury with that performance. I just
It's a
think
good one. It's
it's
a real good one.
Can we bring yesterday back around? 'Cause I know how I feel about you now. I was dumb, I was wrong, I let you down. But I know how I feel about you now.
it's got the essence and the power of 90s girl power in it, even though it came out in the next decade, and I love that song. Number four is Cleopatra's Theme by Cleopatra because
Oh my
wonderful.
God.
Wonderful.
I just think it's about time Cleopatra had some more love, and I think that's a tune. Everyone knows it as well. No one talks about Cleopatra, but I think everyone knows that
They were
song.
great.
And it was a banger. Number three, my All Saints song is Pure Shores, which is by far my favorite All Saints song, and that William Orbit production, that
Ah.
sound is like one of the most evocative songs for me, nostalgia wise, like of any genre. I think it must just hit me at the right time in the 90s. It really takes me back to
It is the
where
year
I was
2000
living.
though, Alex.
Is it? Oh
It is.
dear.
Because it's the one I was going to put on my list and I thought I was going to get shouted at by the
Oh,
pair of
okay.
you.
Wow, I didn't even think about that being 2000s. Okay, well, we're agreed that it's a great song.
I was gonna go on to on a extended rant about it is amazing, but I feel like I might have had an extended rant about this song before, because I think it is genuinely one of the best pop songs of the like last 50 years. I think it's
Mhm.
brilliant and it is evocative and the production's amazing.
This is not a good top five so far because two of the songs aren't from the 90s. But my final two are not going to surprise anyone because I've said multiple times they're my two favorite Spice Girls songs, and Spice Girls are my favorite girl band. So Viva Forever is number two, and number one is Goodbye.
Listen, little child, there will come a day.
I love songs that are about something sad. That's someone leaving the group is a great reason to write a song, and I just like the song
I
on its own terms.
agree with Goodbye, and you know I like it. We've had this discussion during the Christmas number ones. I think it's a
Mhm.
really great pop track. It's a good set of songs. You've both done really well there.
Great.
Apart
Well,
For
from
showing
Vanilla,
yourself
maybe.
off, I think. That's hilarious though. You've got to appreciate like it's the downside of the Spice Girls, isn't it? That someone was like, like we can get, but they were right? Like we can get them into the charts. They did.
Yeah,
They were in the
absolutely.
charts.
It worked.
Like, no, it needs memorializing in podcast form, Stu. I think you're right. I think you're totally right.
Okay,
Um,
deep dive into the history of Vanilla coming up in
I
a future
cannot
episode.
wait. It will be a short episode.
Bonus
Um,
bonus episode maybe.
I'm not sure if I can. I'm going to try and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So actually, I'm going to start at 5, and I'm going to go with "Finally Found" by the Honeys, because I'm not allowed American tracks, and to me, that's kind of like very inspired by those like sort of vocal harmony R&B soul groups. So "Finally Found" by the Honeys.
Finally found what I've been looking for. Now you know I'm gonna love you more. Hold me tight, 'cause it's always been you. It's always been you.
My next one, it's difficult to sort of get them all in the right sort of order. I think I would go "Never Ever" by All Saints, and I, Alex, you've put Pure Shores in. I would 100% time and time again put Pure Shores at the top of everything to do with girl bands ever. I just agree with you. I think it's the best song, but I will go "Never Ever," and then I'm gonna go "Oh Baby I" by Eternal, because that's a great tune from that first album. Always and Forever. Um, then I'm gonna go back to All Saints because I loved them. And I'm gonna do "I Know Where It's At." And I was
Great.
thinking, do I put "Under the Bridge" in? But do you know what was amazing to me is that they tried with "I Know Where It's At." In that documentary, they were talking about it, and the record company didn't like it. And I'm like, that's a banger of a track. It's brilliant.
I know, if you wanna have a good time. I know if you got something on your mind. I know if that you wanna get on down. I know, don't be tight, don't be shy, just come around.
And then my number one, I'm actually going to go with "Say You'll Be There" by the Spice Girls, because Stu, you did "Who Do You Think You Are," and Alex, you did "Goodbye," which are two other great ones. I love "Say You'll Be There." I think it's brilliant. I love the video. I love the little breakdown at the end where like Mel B's doing a punchy bit as she does the little rappy bit. I just think, you know, just a great pop tune.
I'll give you everything on this, I swear. Just promise you'll always be there. I'm giving you it. I'm giving you everything. All that joy, yes, I swear. Yes, I swear. All that I want.
Yeah, so two from All Saints in there, guys. Sorry. I couldn't help myself. I love them.
No, rightly so, rightly so. And another moment from the documentary I should have spoken about was All Saints performing "I Know Where It's At" on like the road on a council estate in Stevenage, live on the Big Breakfast.
That is
Just
amazing.
Just to the backing track with no microphones or props or anything, just doing the song. Absolutely brilliant. Just before we do wrap up, I've got some correspondence on girl bands from the 90s from a couple of podcast regulars, if everybody's interested in this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, First of all, I got in touch with our regular pop expert, Diamond Joe Barter, to ask him his opinion on this and see if he had anything to share. And he asked me to point out that Shampoo, of course, the duo, the girl duo from about 1994-5, had a song called Girl Power, which predates any of this, pretty
They
much.
did, and they did Delicious, which Miley
Hmm.
Cyrus covered for a Gucci advert randomly. But Trouble is a banger of a track. I'm really annoyed at myself that I couldn't remember that.
Yep, so a shout out for Shampoo there. And also, Joe wanted me to shout out Betty Boo as well, who had a few singles in the early 90s and went on her first tour just last year. So left it for a while before going out on
Just a
tour.
bit. Good for her though. But no Shampoo, that's a great shout, Joe. Great shout.
And a message here from wife of the pod, Beth, who, when I asked her about this just before coming up to record, spoke about buying Spice Girls dolls from Argos, but you didn't know which one you were going to get in the box, so you couldn't like collect them all. It
Did you
was in an
not?
opaque box, so you couldn't know which one you were going to get. Being very disappointed when she got Posh Spice and the Posh Spice doll looking a bit silly sat next to her Pocahontas doll.
That's see right now. That's cynical marketing, everyone.
That's
My God.
so
Hmm.
cynical.
Imagine going and buying five and thinking, right, there's a what would the chance be? You get all five in one go and you get like five babies or something, or
Ah,
four babies in a posh.
it's
It'd be
just
terrible,
cruel,
wouldn't
isn't
it?
it?
Doesn't bear thinking about.
Just one final thing from me here. We also contacted official Teenage Diaries of the pod, Teresa Stenson, to ask her what her recollections were of the girl power movement and the emergence of the Spice Girls in particular. And this is what she said. The first thing I think about when I remember the arrival of the Spice Girls is that me and my friends were actually quite put out because we had already formed a band, that's in inverted commas, about a year before, where each of us had different personalities. I was a grungy one, then there was a cute girly one, a cool one who had a bob, and a wild, scary-ish one. We were called Jay, that's spelt Jae. Typically quirky teenage spelling, but pronounced J as in Jay, because all of our middle names began with that letter, three Janes and a Julie. It's probably worth mentioning that none of us were particularly musical and we had no songs as such, but we still acted like we were definitely going to make it. I even wrote fiction about us in my diaries, stories about what it would be like if we went on tour, that kind of thing. Almost like there was a parallel universe where Jay actually existed. I did like the Spice Girls though, with their actual songs and their actual musical careers. And looking back, I think there's something very 90s about that certainty that we had. Our belief that even without songs or instruments, it was all just going to work out.
Teresa, you're absolutely bang on. You, in another world, you are the Spice Girls. Like, because they didn't have really any musical ability either, and look where they got. And that's not even an insult. It sounds like really critical and horrible, but it's not. Like, I think that in the 90s was the time where you didn't have to have a significant amount of musical, like, ability to be in a band and to, like, make money from music.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Parallels with my own first act that I formed, funnily enough, with Diamond Joe Barter and another friend of ours, Matt Coe, often mentioned on the podcast. So we were called JCB, Jocelyn Coe Barter. So along similar lines, but unfortunately, I think we called it a day after a tour of two or three classrooms, and that was about all we could handle. So, yeah, many parallels there. Maybe for the next big reunion, whatever it is they call it on ITV2, we can get JCB and Jay back together
I think
and
you
have
need
a
to
have a
do it.
little reunion tour. I think it needs to be done. I think the public demand it.
Catherine, cannot thank you enough for coming back on and joining us so soon after the Christmas number twos episode just a couple of months
Thanks
ago.
for having me. I know. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be back.
Well, we absolutely valued your input on this topic. And is there anything you want to tell us before you go? Anything about Now Pod or Dawson's Weekly?
No, we say this every time, and we never do anything. I'm just waiting for Katie to get together. We did talk about trying to get through Dawson's by the end of this year. Like we started this in like 2021, January 2021. It's been 5 years. We're still not finished with Dawson's Creek.
Would you just
Oh,
like to play it safe and plug your forthcoming appearance on Christmas number three's part one this December?
yeah, please tune in because it'll come around faster than you think. Let's find out what was happening at number three's Christmas time in the 90s. Get ready, predictably, for Dan to get really, really annoyed by something.
I can't wait. It's become one of my favourite parts of Christmas.
Well, if we don't see you before December, then Catherine, have a fantastic 2026. And thanks
You
again for
too.
coming on to talk about the girl bands of the 90s.
No, it's been a lovely look back. I'm just reminding myself of Eternal again, who were brilliant.
Well, that was amazing, wasn't it, Stu? It was a long overdue episode, and I think we hopefully did it justice after all this waiting time.
It's always great to have Catherine back on the podcast, no matter the subject. But yeah, girl power, something that we've been meaning to address for a long time. This documentary gave us the opportunity to do it. Wonderful to look back at the songs, the history, and yeah, just really, really enjoyed it.
If you, the listener, have any recollections or thoughts about the 90s girl band movement or the girl power movement, if you have any thoughts about what it represented, any academic research you have written or have read or anything, any
That's the
articles.
first time we've asked for that.
No, well, this is the sort of topic, isn't it?
We're now asking people to send in academic research. We can't get them to send in regular emails.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe if we aim higher, go highbrow, we might start seeing some results.
Fair enough. Okay. All right.
can
We'll see how
try
it
it.
goes. We'll see how it goes. We can but try.
Or if you don't want to send an academic PhDs, you could just send us your top 5 girl band tracks from the 90s. I realized, we didn't actually talk about any 90s girl band songs from the States or anywhere else in the world. So that's something we've maybe missed, and maybe we'll come back to it at a later date. But yeah, do let us know if you have any thoughts about this topic or any other topic we've ever talked about. You can find the contact details in our link tree even, which is linked to below in the episode description. So head on down there and send us a message. Next time, Stu, what are we doing?
Well, we're lucky enough to have another returning guest on the podcast next week. It's our good friend, our official 90s diarist, Teresa Stenson, and she's going to be here to talk romance in the 90s. So another one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Another great example of us being slightly behind schedule because this was supposed to coincide with Valentine's Day, but it will inevitably be coming out several weeks after Valentine's Day. But there you go. You get what you pay for with it. It'll be all right in the 90s. And yeah, it's still going to be a great episode. And, love never dies. It's not on a calendar or a schedule. So it's still going to be relevant. And it's going to be a great episode, I think.
Sorry, before we move on, I've said that Teresa will be appearing on the show. We are in talks to have Teresa appearing on the show. This is all dependent on lawyers and things like that. After the things that have gone between us over the last few weeks, we just need to iron out a few, legal things before she can actually commit to coming back on the pod. But hopefully, all being well, she will be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to make sure that we've all agreed on what the rider is going to contain as well, because when we've had her on before, the rider was well, let's just say it put Mariah Carey to shame.
I think that there's talk of having a member of the Lodge disciplinary committee in the room for the record as well at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like an intimacy coordinator for a podcast. That's how steamy it's going to be, no doubt. But
good Lord.
But until then, that is us all wrapped up for this episode. Until next time, it just remains for me to say goodbye. Thanks for listening. I'm just off to speak to Jeff about the potential for a solo career.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening. I'm just off to see if I can track down a member of Vanilla for a future podcast.
Smell you later.
Hang on a minute. What do you mean, solo career?